The Spin-off Podcast Network.
This is Kiwi is back for a brand new season with more inspiring kōrero from special guests including rugby player, father and role model TJ Perenara.
My family bring me joy. Rugby brings me joy too, but it's not the same joy as my family brings me.
And global dancer and choreographer Kirsten Dodgen.
For some reason, people think I'm very intimidating.
Listen to the new season of This is Kiwi, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network in collaboration with KiwiBank. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Talofa lava. I'm Madeline Chapman, editor at The Spin-off. If you have the means, consider supporting our high-quality journalism by becoming a Spin-off member. Sign up now at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
I mean, I sometimes don't even know how much of a story there is behind my observation.
This is real behind the story inside. Yeah. Is this even a story?
Is this even a story? Yeah.
Kia ora, Anna Rawhiti-Connell here. I'm a senior writer and head of audience at The Spin-off, and I'm subbing in for Madeline again this week. Today I'm talking with staff writer Gabi Lardies about her cover story, Selling Security, Delivering Anxiety, the rise of home surveillance cameras. It's a complex topic that unpicks aspects of human behaviour, safety, perceptions about crime, and the unconscious trade-offs we're making when technology becomes ubiquitous, convenient, and cheap. It started, as a lot of Gabi's stories do, with a simple and singular observation. In this case, posts in a local Facebook group, and went on to become a much larger and weighty piece of work. I wanted to ask Gabi about her observational instinct as a journalist, substantiating those observations when it's clear there's something there, and how she balances empathetic and human storytelling with the very big and often morally questionable forces at play on a topic like this. Here's Gabi Lardies on Behind the Story. Welcome back to Behind the Story, Gabi. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be back again. It kind of makes me feel like a superstar.
It is. I mean, you this is your second outing on Behind the Story.
Know.
So very, very cool. Your story, Selling Security, Delivering Anxiety, the rise of home surveillance cameras, is our cover story this week. That's our newish format for long reads and big magazine-style features. I remember you briefly mentioning something about this topic in an editorial meeting. So we have a weekly meeting where people talk about the things that they're thinking about writing about. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly this week it was on site as this really meaty feature. What sparked the idea for it?
Well, first of all, I didn't know it would turn out to be so meaty or like a cover story at all. But really, it was, sometimes it gets to Monday morning and you're like, oh my God, I need some story ideas. And then, sometimes nothing happens in your brain and you think, oh no, and you put down some kind of crappy things. But this time my brain did something good and all these little different things that were in my subconscious kind of clicked together. So basically, I'm in quite a lot of community Facebook groups, like kind of closed ones for, say, Mount Eden, Sandringham, Grey Lynn, Morningside. And in all of them, I'd been seeing these screenshots of home security videos popping up and people kind of complaining about, this person stole my package or this person walked down my driveway. Does anyone have information about this stranger who was in my property? And I found them kind of unsettling, perhaps because I walk to work every day and I'm really nosy, so I'm always peeking over fences, and I can 100% imagine myself on one of these things.
Caught on camera, Gabi Lardies.
Yeah, it's not going to be great, But now I watch myself, because then once you see them pop up again and again, and you are a person that walks, you start to look a bit closer and you start to see the cameras, and they're like everywhere. And it creeps me out. So I brought it up at the editorial meeting, and then Matt was like, oh yeah, I've also seen those posts on community Facebook groups, and yeah, there's something in that. And so I started to dig in and just kept finding more and more worse and worse stuff about these cameras.
I think you are always very good at taking an observation like that, and you're probably doing yourself a disservice in terms of the crap ideas that you bring to the table, because I understand the anxiety of the oh God, I've got to come up with some story ideas, and I feel internally like I struggle quite a lot to figure out the difference between something that is just like a weird thing that only I'm seeing or experiencing versus something that is actually going to be of interest to a broader audience, or something that, once you start pulling on a thread, is actually going to become a bigger story.
Yeah.
And I think you've got a great instinct around that, because you kind of notice things. I was thinking, I mean, it wasn't a serious topic like this particular piece, but the story about truck nuts, where you just notice that people had these weird things hanging off their tow bar, right? and you write about it. Do you always know that kind of observational instinct of yours is going to lead to something that will be of interest to a lot of people, or is it a real see how it goes when you start looking into it?
It's real see how it goes. And it's even, I sometimes don't even know how much of a story there is behind my observation.
There's real behind the story inside. Is this even a story?
Is this even a story? Yeah. And especially with the truck nuts, it's just this weird thing I saw one day, and I thought, what the hell? And then it turned out to be like a thing that people do, and other people have written about it already, and someone at the Auckland University teaches it in a lecture as a kind of gender thing. I never know if something is interesting to other people. I just know if it's interesting to me. And I think sometimes the things I pitch are a bit too niche, and that's okay. You just kind of you just try again.
You do. You come with a few ideas up your sleeve, and you just never know what people are going to react and respond to. And that's the great thing about that editorial meeting.
You find out at the editorial meeting. Sometimes you say something, you look around the group, and there's just like blank stares. And you go, okay, I just tell that story to like my best friend, and she's the only one that will get it. That's okay.
I often think about particularly when we're looking at using, I guess, social media posts, social media trends, just random observations of things that might be happening online. I sometimes worry probably too much about being a journalist and a writer and kind of almost studying people in a petri dish and observing them in social media environments, when in actual fact that's kind of how a lot of us just live our lives.
Yeah.
We
are online.
We are online, and our lives are online.
Yeah.
For you, do you feel like you kind of, when you belong particularly to local Facebook groups, that you're kind of wearing sort of two hats? There's you as a member of community, and there's you as a journalist. Are there lines for you around things that, say, for example, are, no, this is just my life in this neighbourhood versus, oh no, this is a story?
I always feel like I'm watching for possible stories.
We're always watching.
And I think that is probably my main reason for being on the groups. Apart from that, I also love free stuff, and if anyone is ever going to give away free stuff, is on those Facebook community groups. I always feel like a watcher on
Right.
those groups, but then I also think that it is a particular kind of person that joins the groups and then also posts on the groups. So it is, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the widest selection of society to keep an eye on necessarily. But, I watch. I don't feel like a community member on the groups, really. And I don't know if the groups are communities, really.
Yeah. I think that's a very interesting observation around being very aware that often when you are observing things in a kind of online environment, that you're not necessarily observing the thoughts and feelings of the majority of people, that there is a particular type of person that might be attracted to posting.
That posts it, yeah. Yeah, because I think I would never post anything, but I live here, or I used to live there.
Yeah, I'm definitely a silent lurker online these days.
Yeah, we're the silent majority.
The silent majority.
Watching the train wreck sometimes.
Always watching. I mean, I think it's a very interesting interplay with your story around, surveillance and the fact that people are always watching, and now it's translating to this kind of...
I'm watching them watching.
Yes. You're...
and going, oh, I don't know about that.
With a story like this, when did it become apparent to you that there was some quite big, so you pulled the thread, you think actually there is something here? Your piece looks into some of the implications around this kind of private surveillance or neighbourhood surveillance or home surveillance, in something like domestic violence and the potential for it to be abused.
Yeah.
When does it become apparent to you that you're not just writing, I guess, a singular observation, but you're actually going to be pulling on some really big themes that are connected to some quite big forces? There's a lot around technology and its ubiquity in this piece as well.
Yeah, well, I hadn't really written about surveillance or even technology that much before. So when I pitched the idea at the editorial meeting, I had no real understanding of it. And it was really where I went from there is I did a Google search, and quite a few articles from American magazines about home surveillance in America came up. And lots of them were about problems with essentially racism rearing its head, because people in America, and possibly here, but no one's done the research, tend to post photos of black or brown people that are just in their neighborhoods and label it as suspicious behavior. When, one of the examples was just 6 young people were just going up a stairwell, and it was subtitled 6 gang members go on the roof, heading to the roof to smoke weed or something. And it's just whoa. But yeah, that's not something that was initially front of mind. And then the next, so there was essentially that stage 1 of research, reading around. And then it was speaking to a real expert on it, a researcher, Monique Mann at Te Heranga Waka, who interviewed her for the story, and she's the one that brought up the fact it can be used as a tool in domestic violence, and also about how I sort of had realised that if you install a camera in your house, you're spying on yourself. And then she made the point that the camera is uploading it to a cloud. Mm-hmm. And most people who own these cameras have no clue about data security and but people could access that on the cloud. So it was through talking to people that know way more than me and they're telling me. And I guess I always feel that way about being a journalist, like I know next to nothing and then I read things and ask people, and that's how I find stuff out. So, sometimes you feel like a bit of a hack, but
they do call us that.
You really lean on the knowledge of others, and then sometimes it feels like my work is just a collage of the things other people tell me.
You, as well as speaking to an expert around this and doing a lot of research, you also spoke to just some real people who have installed surveillance cameras.
Yeah.
What's the value of bringing that kind of voice into a feature like this?
Yeah, well, I guess the key element is that people are installing them for a reason, and you want to understand why before you maybe start castigating them for doing it. Because in a way, I kind of get why. They don't want people to break into their houses and burgle them. But a question I also had in my mind was whether the cameras were actually effective in like stopping someone burgling you, or if they actually made people feel better by having them. And I came to the conclusion that the cameras don't do really much on either front. I was a little nervous to talk to them because I definitely came at the story thinking it's kind of bad to have these cameras on your house and pointing at the street. But, they talked to me anyway, and that was really kind of them. And I'm not out here to, shoot down these individual people. I'm out here to, look at these kind of wider structures that make people feel like they should get security cameras, and kind of analyze that rather than blame individuals. Because also if you blame people that have security cameras, they're not going to read your article or listen to you. They're just going to think you're mean.
Yeah, people don't like to be preached at.
Yeah.
It's a beautifully balanced piece in that regard, Gabi, in the sense that it talks to some really big kind of issues, some big stuff that feels like it's not just people in New Zealand dealing with this. It's obviously got kind of big global implications. But I think the humanity you've brought to it has given us that really beautiful insight about people's anxieties and the kind of, I guess, the solutions we're looking for in terms of feeling a little bit better about the world that we're living in. So thank you very much for coming on to Behind the Story again.
Thanks
you can
for having me, Anna.
Read Gabi's piece on thespinoff.co.nz now. That was staff writer Gabi Lardies on Behind the Story. Madeline will be back next week with another spin-off writer and another spin-off yarn. Thanks for listening.
Do you find it hard staying optimistic with all the financial news in the media? I'm Bernard Hickey, and on my podcast, When the Facts Change, I'm here to help you navigate the ever-changing landscape of economics in Aotearoa. So join the conversation every Friday on When the Facts Change, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network in partnership with KiwiBet.
Kia ora, I'm Alex Casey, Senior Writer at The Spin-Off. We wouldn't exist without the ongoing support of our generous members. If you're able to, you can make a donation at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
The Spin-Off Podcast Network.